My name is Athena Morrison. I'm 32, an ER nurse practitioner in Connecticut. I left my 5-year-old daughter, Mia, at my mother-in-law's house for one night while I covered a double shift. When I picked her up the next morning, she pressed her mouth to my ear in the parking lot and whispered 7 words. "Mommy, Grandma said don't tell you." I knelt down right there on the asphalt. I asked what she saw. Her answer made my hands go cold on the steering wheel. What I found in a kitchen drawer 72 hours later, and what I said at her 6th birthday party in front of 40 people. That's the story. The first person who knew the whole truth wasn't me. It was a 5-year-old who couldn't yet read the calendar she'd been hiding under. And she told me anyway, because she is braver than anyone gave her credit for. Welcome back to Revenge Finally Stories. This is where quiet women keep their composure, gather their proof, and let the truth speak louder than any raised voice. If a smiling family member has ever made you question your own instincts, this story is for you. Drop a comment and subscribe. I've worked in the emergency room at Hartford Mercy for 10 years. Before that, 3 years in pediatric ICU. I trained myself young to keep my hands steady while my chest did whatever it wanted. That training is the reason I'm still here. And it's the reason this story ends with a folder instead of a lawsuit I couldn't pay for. I live in a 2-story colonial in West Hartford with my husband Daniel and our daughter Mia. Daniel's a software engineer, the kindest man I know, and the most conflict-avoidant man I know. Those 2 facts will become relevant. Mia is small for her age, observant, the kind of child who watches a room for 40 seconds before she speaks. Her favorite person in the world is a worn stuffed rabbit named Beans. Beans goes with us to the dentist, to bed, to the grocery store. She doesn't lose Beans. I want you to remember that. My mother died of pancreatic cancer when Mia was 18 months old. She raised me and my brother Jack alone, on 2 jobs, 3 hours of sleep, and lunchbox notes in her own handwriting until the day she went into hospice. I learned what a mother is from a woman who was almost never in the same room as me, but whose love was in every corner of every day. When my mother-in-law Diane Wells stepped into our lives after Mom died, she came in soft. Casseroles. Babysitting offers. You're the daughter I never had. For 3 years, I believed her. I leaned on her. I told Jack I was lucky. 6 months from now, that sentence would taste like ash in my mouth. Diane is 64. Pastel cardigans, soft bob, kitchen that always smells like cinnamon. In every Christmas photo, she's the center, both arms full of Mia, mouth wide in a laugh the camera caught at exactly the right second. To anyone who'd met her once, she was the grandmother you wished you had. Her daughter Vivian, my sister-in-law, divorced, no children after 3 rounds of IVF, started appearing every time I dropped Mia off. I told myself it was sweet. I told myself she just loved her niece. I told myself a lot of things. When Mia was 2, Diane handed me coffee on her back patio and said, "She's safer here with me. Always will be." I laughed. I said something about sleep deprivation. I didn't write it down. I should have. 3 years later, I'd remember the exact tone, not the casual joke I'd convinced myself it was. Something steadier. Something already decided. There were 4 warning signs I missed. That sentence, Beans left facing a window on her kitchen counter. A caption on the family group chat reading "Single mom life is hard on you, sis," and borrowed phrases coming out of Mia's mouth. Grandma says you work too much. Aunt Vivy says you look tired all the time. I chalked it up to a kid repeating adult words. There was a 5th sign. A child's drawing on a refrigerator. I'll get to it. The night this story begins, my coworker Sarah came down with RSV. I covered her Friday overnight on top of my own Saturday shift. 16 hours straight. Daniel was in Boston. I called Diane at 4:15. She picked up on the first ring. She sounded delighted. "Oh, sweetheart, anytime. Bring her by 6. Eager. Not surprised. As if she'd been waiting for the phone to ring. I drove Mia over. Vivian's silver Lexus was already in the driveway. Mia walked in with Beans under one arm, her overnight bag under the other. Diane bent down and hugged her, kissed the top of her head. Said, "Hi, my favorite person." On my way out, I noticed a drawing on the fridge, stick figures labeled in Mia's handwriting. Diane. Vivian. Daniel. Mia. Know me. Diane caught me looking. Kids forget things sometimes when they draw. She's a child. I drove away with my hands at 10 and 2. I didn't look back. I worked 16 hours. I stitched a 5-year-old's chin at 2 in the morning. I told a father his son was going to be all right. I drove back at 7:20. Diane opened the door in her coral cardigan, smiling. She was an angel. Mia stood behind her, beans crushed to her chest, eyes on the floor. I picked her up. She put her face on my neck and didn't say anything. I buckled her into her seat. I drove to the corner. I stopped at the stop sign. "Mommy." I said yes. "Mommy, Grandma said I should never tell you what I saw." I did not pull through that stop sign. I put the car in park. I turned around in my seat so I could see her face. Her eyes were enormous. Beans was halfway in her mouth. I said very gently, "Sweetheart, what did you see?" She said, "Grandma was crying with Aunt Vivy at the kitchen table. They had a calendar with red X's. Grandma said the X on my birthday is when I come to live with her forever." I did not fall apart. The people who plan things about you in private are counting on that. They want the tears. They want you to pound on the door so they can call your husband and say she's having an episode. I smiled at my daughter. I said, "You are so brave. Want a donut?" I drove to Dunkin' on Farmington Avenue. I bought her a strawberry sprinkle and a small chocolate milk. I sat in the parking lot and watched her face come back piece by piece in pink sugar. At home, I locked the bathroom door, sat on the edge of the bathtub, and opened a new note on my phone. I named it Diane. Typed the timestamp, the location, Mia's words verbatim. The third drawer. Photographs. A lawyer named Cindy. I called Diane Sunday, with Mia coloring at the counter for background noise. I wanted Diane to hear a 5-year-old in the room. I mentioned the calendar. Diane had an explanation ready in half a second. The photographs. Another explanation. Not a single question. No pictures, what lawyer? Just polished answers, perfectly rehearsed. A person who is innocent is confused. A person who is rehearsed is calm. Monday afternoon, I called Diane and said Mia left her water bottle. Verified she was out. Used Daniel's spare key. Walked into a kitchen that smelled like cinnamon. The kitchen was sunny. The third drawer from the left was right where Mia had said. I opened it. The calendar was there. 3 months of red X's marching toward one red circle. Inside the circle, in Diane's careful schoolteacher handwriting, transition day. Our special secret. Don't tell Mommy. I read those words 4 times. Then I took a photograph. Then I read them a 5th time. Beneath the calendar, a manila folder tabbed MIA documentation. 14 photographs of me. Parking lot at 3 a.m., grocery store, pediatrician's office, taken close enough to read my badge. Vivian had been close enough each time to read the lettering. I had never once seen her. A 42-page fabricated incident journal. A draft guardianship petition naming Cynthia Hartwell, Esquire. A letter from Cynthia. This is enough to file. Work on Dr. Patel. We need one professional witness. I propped my phone against a salt shaker and recorded every single page. I called my brother Jack. I need you in Connecticut by Friday. He said, I'll be there tomorrow. Saturday. Mia's birthday party. 40 cars on Whitfield Lane. A white vinyl banner hung from the eaves. Happy 6th birthday, Mia, a new chapter. A new chapter. The yard was full, neighbors, cousins, book club women, Cynthia Hartwell with a glass of white wine on the back patio. Jack at table 7 with his portfolio. Daniel beside me in a button-down. Diane tapped her champagne flute with a butter knife. The yard went quiet. She announced warmly to everyone that after great thought and love, Mia would be spending most of the school year with Grandma so her parents could keep doing their important work. She looked at me with her hand on her heart. Athena, you're giving me such a gift. Truly, and I am so honored to receive it. Vivian raised her glass. Cynthia raised hers. And Diane looked at Mia and said the sentence she had said to me 4 years earlier on a Sunday patio. She's safer here with me. Always will be. The yard waited for me to clap. I stood up. I did not raise my voice. I want you to understand that I have run codes in my ER where a child's heart stopped on the table, and I did not raise my voice then either. The training is the training. I said, Diane, before we have cake, I'd like to share 3 documents the family deserves to see. Document 1. The guardianship petition, Cynthia Hartwell's bar number included. Document 2. The 42 fabricated incidents, now with the Department of Children and Families, case closed unsubstantiated, source under review. Document 3. A photograph of the calendar, found in this kitchen, on today's circled date, transition day. Our special secret. Don't tell Mommy. 40 people did not move. Diane's smile fell the way a curtain falls when someone finally yanks the cord. Cynthia set down her wine, walked to the side gate, and said she was surrendering her bar license Monday. She was sorry. She left. Daniel stepped forward and stood next to me. He faced the yard and said the locks were being changed, the key retrieved, contact ended effective today. Diane sat on a folding chair with her hands over her face. I just wanted Mia to know her family. I paused 2 seconds. I said, you taught her to lie to her mother. That isn't family. That is the thing that happened to you, repeating itself. I knelt in front of Mia. Want to go home? Want pancakes shaped like dinosaurs? The barest smile. We walked out the side gate. We did not run. We walked at the pace of a 5-year-old. Diane called out from the porch. Daniel did not turn around. I put my hand on the car door, half turned, and said just loud enough for the front row to hear. She's coming home with me tonight. And every night after. 2 months later, the restraining order was active. 12 months, 500 feet, no contact. Cynthia surrendered her license. Vivian moved to Charlotte and blocked Daniel before she left, which felt like a small mercy he didn't have to earn. Mia started kindergarten last week. She drew a family picture and pinned it on the fridge. For figures, Mommy, Daddy, Mia, beans. I'm a quiet woman. I always have been. I used to think that was a weakness, that the loud people would always carry more weight. I learned something in those 8 days. The loud people forget that the quiet ones are watching. They forget that we write things down. And when we finally speak, we don't need to raise our voices. We just need to read. If this story gives you that rush of justice, hit subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop your story in the comments. I read every one. Click the next video for another one. I'll see you there.